In this excerpt of my weekly webinar from my Patreon channel, I discuss the internal state of affairs in the United States insofar as politics is concerned. I mean, the situation is a mess, and it's kind of depressing to lay it all out there, but that's what I did. And basically it focuses on the fact that there is a leadership vacuum, a power vacuum in the United States, and because of it, the United States is just stumbling along with no direction. Anyway, check it out. Leadership. Whatever you think of Putin, he's got that ship firmly in hand. It's his fucking country. And Xi and the Chinese Communist Party, it's their fucking country. Yeah. But in the United States, you've got an extreme power vacuum. You've got incredibly weak leadership. You have a doddering old man who is in charge. But he's not really in charge now, is he? And so everybody realizes that behind the scenes, there are a whole bunch of factions fighting it out. And we're not going to know for decades, really, or at least years, what those factions are, who's who, and who's on whose side, and how they're fighting it out, but they are. And what does that denote? A weak leadership, because there isn't one man who's really in charge. Whatever you thought of Trump, I thought he was an incompetent idiot, right? But at least he was in charge, right? And the things that mattered to him, he had a clear line. You know where the fuck he was going, right? Insofar as China is concerned, you knew his line. It was very, very clear. But with the Biden administration, nobody knows. And the Harris administration, when it comes, which I think is going to be around the 4th of July, if not sooner, well, the Harris administration, same thing, because she's weak. She doesn't know what the fuck she's doing. You can tell. You can tell that she has no fucking clue about anything. She's a fucking idiot, okay? I mean, she is a fucking retard, okay? And so nobody knows who is the real leader. And in fact, the issue is there is no real leader. There are a bunch of factions behind the scenes fighting one another. And the decisions, therefore, that emerge, they lack any kind of coherence or any kind of consistency. Because in one battle, one faction is winning, the other battle, the other faction wins, right? I mean, I've heard that there are basically 3 factions, right? The faction number 1 is the Joe Biden family centered around Joe Biden's wife. What's her name? Karen. Not Karen, I forget her name right now, but around her. And all they care about is continuing the grift and not get prosecuted. That's what they're really worried about. And also they want to do some bullshit feminism, leftoid crap, right? Fuck that, right? Then there's the Obama group. Obama is a serious player. I mean, the guy is trying to have a 3rd term and use Joe Biden as the finger puppet, okay? Biden and then Harris, when she becomes president, as the finger puppet, as he is the real president. That's what he wants. That's how he envisions himself, okay? And then there are the left-wingers. I mean, they're hardcore left-wingers. And the Obama administration, or the Obama people behind the scenes, they think that they can handle the left-wingers. They are fooling themselves into thinking that they can manage them. But these left-wingers are fucking nuts. And it's not just AOC and Ilhan Omar and all that fucking crowd. What's it called? The squad? No, it's more than that. They're the Chakrabarti guy who ran the AOC campaign, a bunch of other, underlings, right? A lot of these fucking people, right? They are hardcore leftists. These fuckers are fucking communists, right? No fucking around. And the Obama people like Samantha Powers, Cass Sunstein, that whole crowd, they think that they can handle them. They think wrong. They can't, okay? Because these fuckers are communists. They're hardcore communists. And they are resentful fucks. And so right now, that's the slugfest going on. That's the word I'm getting at any rate. Okay, it could be other factions that I'm not aware of, but that's not the point. The point is, see, there is weak leadership because these different factions, they're all fighting one another. And so like in any factional contest, right? One decision will be won by one group, another decision by another group, right? But these 2 decisions, they are not consistent with one another because they came from different factions. And therefore, there is no coherence. There's no clear strategic vision. Weak leadership. On the other hand, you have weak opposition because the fucking Republicans, right? You got the corporatist Republicans. I mean, they're basically, bend over and let themselves get ass fucked by corporations, right? Then there are the Republicans who are basically, they are ashamed of being conservative and really want to be like left-wingers and try to appease the left wing. And then there are the hardcore conservatives, right? I mean, Tucker Carlson types. Like, you got, I mean, from Tucker Carlson all the way to the far right. And there are different factions among those, of course, right? And all these fucking people, they have different views for what America ought to be. You got some guys who are like retard traditionalists who want to go back to like the 1950s when it's not going to happen, right? They're not living in the present. They don't want to deal with the shit that's going on today. And so you got these different, what you call it? These different factions in the Republican Party that they're all fighting one another. And so there's no coherent, unified opposition. Weak leadership and weak opposition. What's that? That's a power vacuum. And a power vacuum is one of the most dangerous things that can ever befall a nation. Because, see, what's going on is that because of this power vacuum, a lot of bureaucrats are able to taste power because of COVID, because of this power vacuum. And they are inflicting this power on the people. And there's nobody higher up on the food chain to stop them. Of course not, because there's a power vacuum in the people in power, in leadership, and a power vacuum in the opposition, because it's all broken up. All these different factions fighting one another. No clear line. There's not one man or one vision, okay? Because it could be that there are multiple men, but one clear vision, okay? So don't think that you have to have one man and then you have real leadership. Sometimes, lots of times, you have several men who are leading, but they all have the same vision. And so they all more or less go in the same direction, okay? But what's going on now is that both on the left and the right, it's all fragmented. There are civil wars going on both sides. There's a power vacuum, okay? And so bureaucrats are taking over. Fauci is the epitome of this. He is a bureaucrat. He is a guy who should have been muzzled, months ago. I mean, fucking 8 months ago. He should have been told, look, buddy, you're going to stay in your fucking office. And you're going to work this whole problem, sure, but you're going to stay in your fucking office. And you're going to run any fucking decision by us or me, okay? Us or me being the people in actual power who have a clear line. But no, Fauci was allowed to run riot because Donald Trump was a weakling. He didn't have the balls or the stomach to rein in Fauci. And Fauci issued contradictory opinions. Fauci even went so far as to admit how he would deceive the American public in order to do what's best for them. We're lying just to make it good for you. What the fuck is that all about? I mean, come on, we're not fucking children, right? But that's what Fauci did. And he's the epitome of the bureaucrat who knows that there's nobody above him to really rein him in, so he does whatever the fuck he wants. And Fauci, guys like Fauci, they're all over the fucking bureaucracy in the American government. And all of them are trying to get more power for themselves at the expense of the people. Okay? The government of the people, by the people, for the people. Well, long ago, it stopped being for the people. And the government is acting in its own best interest, in the best interest of the bureaucrats and the politicians in it. Okay? Because there's no clear line. Okay. So you got that going on, right? And then you have, in this power vacuum, you've got a lot of left-wing anarchists who are realizing that there's no one who will stop them, because there isn't. In fact, they get encouraged, for crying out loud, by the left-wing politicians. And the right-wing anarchists, or the right-wing traditionalists who want to go toe-to-toe with these left-wing anarchists, they're prevented because they're fucking Nazis, okay? That'll end soon enough, in my estimation, by the way. I think that soon enough, people are going to say, oh, let the right-wingers do their thing. Let the militia off the leash. And then we're going to have some real street battles. That'll be fucking fun. Great video is going to emerge, okay? Fucking horrifying, of course. I mean, just fucking horrifying. But yeah, that's on the way, okay? Because the left-wing anarchists, they're going whole hog. They're going whole hog. And people say that how come Biden and Harris are not stopping this shit? Because they're weak. They're weaklings. That's what you have to understand. These people are fucking weaklings. That's why they can't stand up to the left-wingers. And on top of that, one of the factions in the leadership, Chakrabarti and that whole crowd, they are these communists who are in the Biden administration. They are allied to Antifa. Antifa are their soldiers. Okay, I mean, understand that. This is the level of politics going on, where you have a political faction that has street thugs, and of course, Antifa is deliberately decentralized, precisely so that these communists don't leave any fingerprints. But this is what's going on. This is what's going on in America. And if I'm telling you this shit, you know that the Chinese and the Russians know this. You know that the Europeans know this. They're not fucking stupid, okay? They've got some Chinese drone, some Russian dude who speaks perfect English and knows what's going on and reads all the shit and sees what's going on. I mean, no bugging anybody's office or any hacking into anybody's computer. They just read the fucking news. That's all, and they know what's the fuck's going on. So the Chinese have a very clear idea of what's going on. The Russians have a very clear idea of what's going on. There is a power vacuum in America now. And these left-wing anarchists are taking full advantage of it. The bureaucrats are taking full advantage of it. Now, the oligarchs hold way too much fucking power. Way too much power. And they are using it destructively, okay? There have been times when there have been oligarchs before. I mean, the late 19th century is an example. But see, these oligarchs, most of them, rose from poverty. And so they felt indebted to America, and they did a lot of things for the betterment of America. Carnegie, for instance, set up a whole bunch of libraries and shit, right? Vanderbilt and the other people, they set up all kinds of museums and crap like that. The Metropolitan Museum in New York is funded by one of these fuckers, right? I forget which one. It doesn't matter, but the point remains. These guys, they viewed their riches, and they viewed them as a way to help, quote unquote, the people, the very romantic democratic notion of helping the people. And also they wanted to look good, okay? They wanted to leave monuments behind. But these oligarchs, these fuckers, they want to change how people are, okay? They want to engineer people because they don't like the people from which they emerged. They don't like Americans. That's the bottom line issue. The oligarchs in America do not like Americans. The average, normal, everyday American, they don't like them, okay? And they want to re-engineer them, okay? Now, tech censorship is one. And when they censored Trump, that should have been a fucking red flag. That should have been like red alert, okay? Because if they censor the president of the United fucking States, they shut him down, motherfucker. They can shut down anybody, okay? And that means eventually they'll start shutting down huge categories of people. Not individuals, just whole categories. They'll say that this group of people, that group of people, and since they can use their algorithms to figure out the exact characteristics of the different groups of people, they use those data points for their algorithms to show them content. They'll know, oh, these people, we shut them all down. We cancel them systematically. That's in the cards. I mean, that's on the way. Because if it's happening to individuals, it's going to happen to groups of people. And it's not just that they are not allowed to post, memes on social media or Facebook or shit. It's that they're not allowed to get into the financial system. I mean, this is Chinese social credit shit. I mean, this is counter to everything that the United States is supposed to stand for, okay? And it's extremely detrimental to the best people in America. Because the best people in America are going to be the ones that are targeted for this shit. The entrepreneurs, the guys who think outside the box, those guys, they're the ones who are going to get ass blasted by this shit, okay? Let me make my picture a little smaller. No, Tucker is not controlled LOP, and hey, coach, hi. Okay, I'll just keep on going. Now, the oligarchs, the other thing about the oligarchs, they have these crazy notions of social engineering. They have these schemes that they're setting up. Like, for instance, one that came out was this fucking moron, Bill Gates, had this idiotic notion, and he threw $25 million at this idiotic notion that to counter climate change, what they should do is block out sunlight. Spray the upper atmosphere with calcium silicate or some shit like that, right, to block out rays from the sun. Now, you do know that the dinosaurs died because the sun was blocked because of a fucking asteroid. And so much dirt was kicked up that it cooled the planet, killed off all the fucking dinosaurs. And that's why there are no dinosaurs roaming around except fucking birds. You know that, don't you? Huh? So when this retard, Bill Gates, has this idea and he throws 25 million bucks at it, 25 million bucks, sure, for a guy who's worth several $billion or 60 or 80 or however many billions of dollars the guy is worth, it's peanuts, right? It's still a shit ton of money. And this is an idea that he was proposing. And anybody with a little bit of fucking common sense would tell you it's fucking insane. Because you want to say that climate change is happening, it's bad, fine. Global warming is bad, fine. That remains to be seen, by the way. Global warming would mean that there would be more arable land. That's something that the climate change people never talk about, okay? But anyway, the idea of seeding the atmosphere so as to block out sunlight, and they are actually planning on doing this until there was such an uproar that they canceled it. You know, what does that tell you? And this is one of the things that is heard about, okay? What about all the other shit that they've been doing that we haven't heard about, huh? All the other crazy schemes. And that's the problem. These oligarchs, they have all these crazy social engineering schemes, and they've got the money to do it. Because here's the horrible fact of the matter is, this concentration of wealth is essentially creating a de facto feudal society. You look at shit like OnlyFans, you look at the thing of sugar babies, for instance, right? Of these girls who sell their bodies, their images for money. And then these women who go on these websites and find rich guys who will fuck them and give them an allowance, right? What's going on? These women are selling themselves. They're becoming chattel. And in a very real sense, it's just a symptom of how our whole society is going feudal, where you have these very rich and powerful individuals and like a whole coterie, a whole pyramid below them of advisors and lawyers and this and that, money managers, a whole pyramid going down of all these other people who service them in you know, figuratively and literally, okay? All these people like little nations, like little feudal societies. And national borders mean nothing to these people, right? They've got their agents in every country in the world, or all the countries that they matter to them at any rate, right? And they travel from here, there, right? And these feudal lords, these oligarchs, they are essentially creating this. And the national governments are no longer as powerful as they are. They are as powerful, or if not more powerful, than sovereign states. Their net worth is greater than the GDP of most nations. This is a disaster, but this is where we're headed, okay? This is what's heading in the United States because nobody is reining in these people. That's the problem. These oligarchs are being allowed to run riot, okay? So anyway, you got that problem. Then the U.S. military. The U.S. military is weak, bloated, demoralized. Oh, and I forgot to put there in the oligarchs, you know, they've got all this propaganda shit going on with all the propaganda outlets. I mean, the Washington Post, for instance, is bought and paid for and owned by Jeff Bezos, who's the owner of Amazon. He's the richest man on the planet. It's a propaganda arm, okay? The Washington Post is the most prestigious newspaper in the United States, or the second most, depending on how you look at it. And it's a propaganda arm for the richest man on the planet. That's fucking feudalism, for crying out loud. Anyway, the U.S. military is weak. It's weak, it's bloated, it's demoralized, okay? And every stat that you look at shows this, okay? It's bloated. It's, you got 44 four-star generals right now. That's more than any other time in U.S. military history. They have more four-star generals now than ever before. And when I was growing up, there were like a dozen, okay? Now they have 44. During the Second World War, they did not have that many four-star generals, okay? And that was the largest military mobilization in American history, okay? And this is going on at all levels of the American military establishment. There's just bloat all over the place, okay? And they're demoralized. Why are they demoralized? Because they've been at war for 20 years in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Syria, and some spots in Africa. And they have yet to win a fucking war. It's been just loss after loss after loss. And it's the way that the losses have happened, okay? Because it's not like a bunch of like, you know, last stands and they got wiped out by the native population or some shit like that, you know? Or Charge of the Light Brigade or some shit like that. No, no, no. It's that they went into these countries and they brought in all of this fucking gear. I mean, the American logistics effort was huge. I mean, disproportionate. They basically set up a little bit of America in these shithole countries, right? And they brought in all this logistics gear, all these supplies, all this shit. They used none of the local stuff, right? It was all imported. It was like, you know, containers and containers full of crap from America, right? And they set up their little country, and they fenced it all in, and they just held the position, right? And outside its walls, I mean, like the fucking green zone in Baghdad, in Iraq, right? The green zone is like the fortified area where the Americans live. The Americans, contractors, and the American military people, and all the rest of it, right? And it's basically a walled off city within the city. And the American embassy in Baghdad, the largest embassy in the world, it's like a fucking bunker. It's like Hitler's bunker. I mean, that fucking thing is impregnable, right? It's a huge fucking thing. And to what? What's the purpose of it? See? And they lost. See the demoralization of having brought in all that crap, and you lose. And you know you're losing. And you know that the reason you're losing is precisely because you brought in all this shit. And you didn't actually engage. You didn't even define the fucking enemy, you know? You just came here with all the crap and just planted yourself and just wasted money. Wasted money, time, resources, and every once in a while some American soldier would get shot and killed by some sniper or whatever the fuck, right? Or some IED or whatever the fuck, right? A few thousand died. I mean, not that many American soldiers died in Iraq and Afghanistan. Yeah? I mean, if you look at it compared to Vietnam, for instance, or Korea, it was not that bad. Not at all. But it was the way that it happened. It was just a slow grind, and it was at random. Do you have any idea the demoralization that would inflict on the American military? They can't fight a bigger war, okay? On top of that, these stupid fucking idiots, right? They lowered their standards for political reasons. Now you got women trying to become SEALs, okay? The whole point of SEALs is to have the meanest, toughest motherfuckers who can carry a rhinoceros while killing somebody with their fucking teeth, and at the same time, you know, knitting crochet, all happening at the same time while carrying an M16 and balancing on the head of a pin. That's the whole point of the fucking training of those fuckers, right? But no, we have to have women and Navy SEALs and shit, right? You lower standards, and that demoralizes people. The best of the best, they like, oh, look at this fucking slit who's trying to hump over the course, and she can't cut it. So we have to like let her slide and give her help and give her a little step stool so she can get over the obstacle course. And it demoralizes people because the best realize that their effort doesn't matter because some slit, some cunt gets to do the course with a little help, and she gets the same medal as you do, but you actually have to work for it. And so you're like, fuck it, why bother? That's demoralizing. But they've done that. They've also gone in an ideological purity spiral and internal persecutions. I mean, right now, there is, from what I understand, there is a concerted effort to expunge everybody who's a Trumpist or a right-winger from the American military, Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. Okay? I mean, like, they're going whole hog to get rid of them, especially in the officer corps. The officer corps are going to be a bunch of wokesters. These fuckers will not know how to win a war. I mean, the fact is the American military has not won a war in more than 20 years. See, the last war the Americans won was Desert Storm 1 back in 1991. That's 30 fucking years since the last successful war. See? These fuckers, it's been, you know, it's been 30 years since the last victory. They don't know how to win a war. They don't even know what it tastes like. See? So the American military, if they go up against the Russians, they're going to get their asses handed to them. If they go up against the Chinese, they're going to get their asses handed to them. You've got carrier groups that are not fully operational. And that's a fact. The USS Gerald Ford, it is not operational. It is not sending jets up into the sky. It's just this big hunk of iron floating around in the ocean. No fucking planes. If you don't have fucking planes taking off the fucking aircraft carrier, then what the fuck is it good for? Huh? And on top of that, the weapons don't fucking work. Okay? And like I said, the USS Gerald Ford, but then you got like the $1.7 trillion boondoggle that was the F-35. The jet that could do it all, but in fact can't do anything. You can barely even fly, you know? That fucking thing has been in development. And why? Because a lot of fucking people made a lot of fucking money off that fucking program. Yeah. It wasn't designed to be the next jet. It was designed to be a cash cow for a whole bunch of fucking people, politicians, arms manufacturers. You know, and for the F-35, they have factories in every single congressional district in the United States. Did you know that? Components of that fucking boondoggle of the F-35, they are manufactured in every single congressional district in the United States. Every single one, not one exception. And what does that do? Well, it makes sure that every single congressman is going to say, yes, sir, to the F-35 because some of their constituents earn a living off that fucking plane. See? And that was a deliberate decision, of course. They did that on purpose so they can get this fucking thing. See? Yeah. And the weapons don't work. The F-35 does not work. Okay? It has problems with software. It has problems with all kinds of problems. It's not even fucking stealth. That's the funny thing. See, the Russians have the, I forget which of their radar systems can spot it every time, 100% accuracy. They've never been able to hide from the Russian radar systems, you know, and not even the sophisticated ones. Okay. It's like they're older models. Yeah. Not once have the fucking stealth F-35 been able to successfully hide from the Russian thing. And so because of it, because these planes are so easy to spot and they're so fucking expensive, they don't fly them. They don't fly them. Can you fucking believe that? That's just, oh, peachy. Anyway, that's what's going on in the economy, foreign affairs, and internal affairs, right? So let's talk about the people of America. And this here, my friends and neighbors, this is a really depressing part. The people in America are